back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, I'm recapping episode 5 of Bridgerton. I'm gonna get through the episode plot recap as quickly as I can because this episode is where things kind of started to take a turn a little bit for me as a viewer who is a Black woman, obviously. And I just want to get into some discussions that I kind of didn't necessarily want to have, but the thing about being a Black person in America is that you cannot, there's no way to take your experience of how you navigate the world out of anything that you do. So even though I wanted to watch the show and just enjoy it for what it was and for what it presented, I didn't want to get really bogged down by some of the reasons that a lot of people find Shonda Rhimes' productions problematic in terms of colorism and texturism. And I really just wanted to enjoy the show because life right now is just so heavy. I just wanted something light. But this episode is where things kind of started to take a turn for me, and where I started to have some conversations with some friends who were also enjoying the show, just about some of the things that transpired in this episode and that previous episodes had been building to. So I'm going to try to get through the plot recap as quickly as I can so that I can kind of delve into some of those things and get you guys' perspectives on those things as well. Because like I said, I am not capable of ingesting any kind of media, reading any kind of book, listening to any kind of podcast without approaching it, bringing my experience along with it. There's no way to, is the word I want to use, I don't want to say that. There's just no way for me to separate who I am from my identity as a Black person. It's not something that I choose to put on and take off. You know, maybe there are Black people who can do that and they can just kind of navigate the world with rose-tinted glasses. I'm not one of those people. So let's jump right into what happened this episode. So the duel, we left off with the duel on the previous episode. Daphne has basically told Simon, girl, forget all this mess about kids. I don't want to be a ruined woman. I don't know if you guys have ever watched Big Mouth, but I absolutely love how one of the characters says ruined. He says ruined. And, you know, she's like, I don't want to be a ruined woman, so you gonna marry me, and that's it. So Daphne rushes back to the house. She pretends to be in bed, and she jumps up to go and tell her hungover ass mama that there's going to be a wedding. And Violet is like, oh, great, because she thinks that the wedding is going to be to the prince, because that was who she last saw her, Daphne, interacting with. And she's actually thrilled that it's going to be a wedding with the Duke. And mamas be knowing. And I think it's interesting that Lady Danbury and Violet knew what even Simon and Daphne didn't seem to know, which is that in spite of whatever ruse you all think you have going, there is actually something here. But because of the way they arrived at this union, or arrived at the decision that they're going to be married, they are both incredibly awkward at this point, because they both think that they have tricked each other into a situation that they both actually really wanted. So it's quite complicated. Yes, there was some manipulation here, but they were manipulating each other to get to the same end goal. And Simon is racked with guilt because he thinks that he's trapped her, because he knows that by following her into that garden and luring her into this kiss, that he basically put her in a position where she knew that he, wanted her. And then she feels like, well, I basically told you that, I went to the garden knowing you would follow me. So you both led each other to this really interesting moment, and now it's awkward because you both actually gotten what you wanted, but you both aren't comfortable with the means by which you got it. So complicated. Okay, so the queen is obviously pissed off that Daphne has gotten, dropped her nephew, the prince, which I just want to say again, the way that the prince handled this situation, he was so loving and so understanding and so supportive of Daphne just wanting her to be happy. And it was like, if you're in any way being forced, I got your back. And it was just like, I'm still team Prince Frederick. Like, oh my gosh, like he was just so lovely about the whole thing. And the queen is like, I am not one to be thwarted so easily. So while Daphne wants this rushed wedding and Violet thinks it's because she's lost her virginity or she's done something untoward with the Duke, it's actually that they are trying to avoid Cressida going out and spreading any kind of gossip about why this marriage is taking place. So they have to get this special license, which the queen is just like, you don't want to marry my nephew, so ain't no license for you, boo. And just some hey man shit, right? Like the queen is so bored in her existence that she just creates chaos in order to have something to do. And I guess, I mean, shit, if you don't have no TV, no radio, no podcast, no, you know, she doesn't seem like she really reads very much. I guess what else are you gonna do but stir up mess, because it's not gonna have any real consequences for you. I also just want to say Eloise is being really annoying this episode, the past couple of episodes. Eloise is one of the worst kinds of feminists in my opinion, because it doesn't really make you a pioneer to shit on women who do want to be married and have children. And the way that she's treating Daphne, it's one thing for you to say this is not a life that I want for myself, but it's a completely other thing to just be like, I would never want to be the type of bitch that you are. Of course she didn't call her a bitch, that's me throwing my Atlanta in there, but it's getting annoying. It's getting really annoying. Daphne is doing what Daphne wants to do, and Daphne has her own problems, and for you to be constantly berating her or talking down to her because she's playing the game according to what society and everyone is telling her that she has to be, it really kind of makes you a shitty sister to be coming down on her all the time for being like, you know, I don't know, like a typical lady. I don't know, but like Eloise is getting on my nerves. Anthony is up to his fuckboy stuff. He goes over to try to see City Girl Sienna after, you know, he knows they're not about to run away together. And, you know, Madame Delacroix was like, girl, she gone and you need to go too. You caused enough mess. And he's like, I'll take care of her. She got somebody for that. You can go, which I absolutely love. Don't sit around and wait on nobody to choose you, especially after they've been like yo-yoing you back and forth. We could all learn a little bit from City Girl Sienna. Okay, a couple things. Penn is obviously quite in love with Colin. Penn does not want to see Marina trick Colin into a relationship or into a marriage. Number one, because she's in love with him, and number two, because it's not a right thing to do. This is when my opinion of Marina really started to change, because she starts being trifling, but it's because she's in survival mode. So Marina pulls Lady Featherington into her scam, and she's like, just give me like 2 weeks or a week, whatever this period of time, to get Colin to propose. And it's like, well, you're gonna have to also convince him to have a speedy wedding too, because you're about to start showing. So Marina, Penn becomes aware of this, and she's trying to tell Marina, like, please don't do this to him. Like, he's a good guy. And Marina is like, so you want me to lure a bad guy into my life for my child? So again, things are complicated. Y'all know I have my notes, a lot to keep up with. So the Duke actually declines to accept Daphne's dowry, which gets him and Antony back on good terms. So hallelujah for that. The Queen, the Duke and Daphne go to the Queen to plead their case, right? About why they really want to be married. And Lady Danbury is like, don't give her no bullshit. And Simon makes this very heartfelt plea about how, no, this wasn't love at first sight. We actually really couldn't stand each other. This is just my best friend. And because the Queen, the King is now lucid, or so they think. The King has come out of whatever psychoses he's been enduring, and they're at dinner, and he accuses the queen of killing his daughter, Emily. And she's like, Emily has been gone for a really long time. She was sick around the time that you were sick, and he is obviously not all the way there. This is when we start to see the queen kind of be humanized, because you can tell the queen is a black woman, and the entirety of black society is being held up on the thinnest of strings, per Simon in the previous episode, by this marriage. If the king decides that he no longer wants this black woman, what's going to become of her, and what is going to become of all of the black people who she brought up and along with her, that she elevated along with her? This is a pretty precarious situation for her. And seeing, you know, how her and the king had these conversations about, oh, when we used to walk in the garden and we used to do these things together, it looks like they did have a friendship, they did have a relationship. And the queen is actually really moved by the fact that, oh, y'all actually really like each other, and that is the foundation of a happy marriage, is a friendship. And you can really kind of see that they got through to her. So this episode, the queen was humanized a bit at this point. So a bit of character development. I'm curious to see in season 2 what's going to become of her and the king's relationship. Just to pull over, you know, Benedict, the second brother, is back at the Den of Iniquities, where he has a dalliance with Madame Delacroix and a third. Well, he also discovers that Henry Granville, the artist, is gay, and later on at the wedding reception, he discovers that the third was actually his wife. And it's like this whole, you know, she's basically his beard, and she gets to do what she wants to do. And it's like, I guess for him, this very like modern way of circumventing what the expectations are for them as, you know, gentlemen in this society. Okay, so Simon gets hungover. He gets wasted. He wakes up hungover at Will's family's house. Okay, this is something that one part that I really need to get into. So we'll put a push pin in Will and his family, and we'll circle back to that just to like finish up the episode. So Marina makes her move on Colin at the wedding reception, and Colin is like, oh, we should have like a, you know, like a long engagement. You deserve to have the biggest wedding, and you know, my family this, and blah 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 blah. All the while, Daphne is stressed out. Simon is stressed out. They are both racked with guilt. Daphne has no idea what it means to be a wife. She still doesn't fully understand what's going to happen on the wedding night, and people keep hinting at it, and she's like, can somebody please tell me something? And her mom has this really kind of trifling conversation with her about the birds and the bees and the ways of life. So she understands that children come from sex, but she does not fully understand what sex is. And she also is like, well, if Simon can't have kids, does that mean that he can't have sex? And like, she has no idea what's going on, and it's really awkward to see someone so ill prepared for something that I don't remember not knowing. I'm 33, so obviously I know I didn't come into this world knowing how I came into this world, but I don't remember not really knowing where babies came from, because I was raised around a lot of like several medical professionals, and people did not sugarcoat a lot of things for me. Like, I wasn't really allowed to use like cutesy names for my body parts. It was like, this is a penis, this is a vagina, and this is how you know, this is how babies are made, kind of thing. It was like kind of, you know, obviously the more emotional parts of that were explained to me later on in life, and that's a video for another day. But I don't remember not knowing, and so I can't really imagine what it's like on your wedding night to not even know what it means to lose your virginity. Like, how do you long for something that you've never experienced? How does she know what this desire is? Like, this is all new to her, and I can't even put my mind in a space of like, well, how do you know that you even like want him on top of you? How do you know where parts go? It's so confusing to me. Like, how did women, you know, did they, like, I kind of want to like explore it a little bit more. Like, in real life, women or young girls, because these girls were actually quite young, like of this time, how did they know? What did they think was happening? Did they know? Did somebody pull them to the side? Like, I'm very curious about that. But basically, on their wedding night, they have to stop at this inn on the way to this country house that I guess is going to be their marital home. And again, you know, Daphne is in a separate room, and because Simon thinks that she doesn't want to be in a room with him. He feels like he ruined her chances with the prince, who he thinks that she really wants. And the whole time it's like, no, I really wanted you, but you told me you didn't want me. Complicated. So they finally have this conversation where they put their cards on the table, and, you know, Simon is like, I have burned for you, you know, since whenever. And they finally get on the same page with regard to this marriage, but she has no idea about like this pullout situation. She has no idea why he's doing this. She has no idea what he's even doing. And it's just like, wow, like to be so unaware of the world, which brings me to the two things that I really want to talk about. Number one, looking at Will and his family, I really try to stay out of conversations on the colorism because I've been told that I'm not dark enough to have an experience or an opinion about that. So I really let the people who are more well-versed on colorism and texturism speak to those issues, because I don't like to reduce those conversations just to desirability. I think that there's systemic oppression that comes from being dark skin, that comes from not having the softer texture of hair. There are things systemically that happen to people outside of a desirability, outside of not being chosen to be on billboards or to be in movies. But I also don't want to diminish what it means that we see dark-skinned men with light-skinned women, or that we see brown-skinned men with light-skinned women. Or someone even mentioned not too long ago that on TV shows where there's a black family, you have a dark-skinned son, but a very fair-skinned daughter. And it's like these kind of coded messages that you wonder, is anybody thinking about what it says about the desirability of dark-skinned black girls, that there's so many light-skinned, biracial, or racially ambiguous looking black girls to represent the whole of us, right? When I was growing up, I just remember seeing Journey Smollett in so many things. I think Regan Gomez and Laura Winslow were maybe the two black girls who I first saw when I was growing up who actually had hair like mine, because, you know, I was natural before it was cool to be natural. So they didn't have all the like products, and like my mom is like old school hairstylist. She don't know nothing about no twist outs and no braid outs or nothing like that. So I did not wear my hair like a Journey Smollett or Tracee Ellis Ross. I wore my hair like Regan Gomez or you know, Laura Winslow, but like younger, you know, or even Naya Rivera, may she rest in peace, was on that show. And it was a very specific kind of look, right, that we saw of black girls being represented on these shows. Marina Thompson gives me that thing. She's not racially ambiguous. That is inarguably a black girl, but it's still a very specific kind of black girl. And what the conversation that I was having with my friend, now that I've prefaced all of my, like, I'm not an expert on colorism or texturism, but this is something that I noticed and something that I think I would be remiss as a black woman if I did not address. Why did Marina, the black girl, have to be so worldly? Why did she have to be the one with an unplanned pregnancy? Why couldn't she be innocent and curious about the world? Why did she have to be the one who is operating from a place of survival? And then even when we look at Will and his family, y'all know this is a Will Mondrick Stan account, but looking at his family, why did his wife have to be this fair-skinned woman? I mean, like, I think that's why Insecure was so monumental, in that we saw Issa and Daniel, two dark-skinned people together, because you really don't see that often. Like, if you really stop to think about it, it's like, huh, the guy is always darker. And that's just something that I could not help but notice. And it was really cute too, just in that scene, like you see Simon kind of looking like he's longing for that family. And I think that he's starting to maybe question that vow that he made to his dad, looking at Will and his family. But as I was looking at Will and his family, because I'm in love with Will, I'm like, that wife don't look like me, you know. And I'm used to people not looking like me, you know, like, it's fine. but it was just something that I noticed and that I couldn't help but notice in a conversation that I was having with a friend of mine with regard to the Marina Thompson character. Why are we prepared to see, or maybe the question is, why don't we see Black girls get to experience girlhood in that kind of innocent way that Daphne experienced it? Would this show have worked with a Black Bridgerton family? And I'm gonna say no, because given even the fictionalized historical context of this show, the Bridgerton family seems to be like a long established family, and obviously like the Black people who are a part of, you know, the aristocracy, they're still kind of new to it because of the king and the queen, like I said before. But could we see a Black Daphne-like character, someone who is innocent and is not just expected to know the ways of the world? Even with Madame Delacroix, there's no innocence to her. You know, they just know the world. They just know how things work in the world. And even Lady Danbury, she don't take no shit. Lady Danbury, again, Lady Danbury stand account, absolutely love her, but it does stand to it begs the question, like, well, why is that? Why are these Black characters so worldly? Why do they have to be so worldly? And what would it be like to see a show? It doesn't have to be in this era or in this kind of, you know, romance drama, soapy, whatever, but can we, or are we prepared? Or maybe this has happened and I just can't remember right now. Have we seen a show where a Black woman gets to have the kind of innocence that Daphne gets to have? And, you know, is that something that we should be critical of this show? I still enjoyed the show, do not get me wrong, but these are things that I noticed, that even though I went into this having no expectation that it would be revolutionary for Black people, for dark-skinned people, or anything like that, I went into it because it's a Shondaland show. I've watched Scandal, I've watched How to Get Away with Murder. I know what the issues are. I know what people's critiques are of the way that she casts. I just wanted to be able to enjoy the show, and even these are things that even I could not ignore. I cannot take my experience as a Black woman and the things that I see that I have experienced, or the things that I know that other Black women and Black people have experienced. I can't take that out of me as a viewer just so that I can enjoy the show. So these are just things that I noticed. Let me know if you guys noticed them. Let me know what your thoughts were about the Marina Thompson character, about her, you know, plot with Colin, because that character really started to kind of lose favor with me once I saw that she was like being kind of like shisty. Let me know what you guys thought about that. Did the casting take you out of the story? Did you feel any differently about the characters? Were these things that you guys noticed or considered as well? Let's have a conversation about it. So drop down in the comments. Thank you guys for joining me. I know this video is a little bit long, but this is where things started to kind of take a turn for me personally as a viewer, so I just wanted to share that with you. So be sure to like and subscribe and share. Drop your girl a coin if you feel so inclined via Patreon. The link is in the episode description, and I'll be back to see you guys again for episode 6. Bye.